in chapter 4 of Smart Not Spoiled, it's about talking taxes. Well, Mark Twain said, quote, "What's the difference between a taxidermist and a tax collector?
What?
The taxidermist only takes your skin." All right, unquote. There you go.
All right, folks, welcome back to another episode of Smart Money Parenting. Scott here, got my buddy Chad. How's it going, Chad?
Great, man. Great to be here.
We've got a really crazy topic today that so many people get bored and gloss their eyes over, and then all of a sudden their bank account is empty. It's called taxes. We're talking about everything you need to know as a parent about taxes and how to talk about taxes and teach it to your kids. Chad, take it away, man.
Interesting fact. So the tax code today in 2023 is about 7,000 or 7,500 pages long. But if you count all the tax guidelines and tax rulings on top of that, you're looking at like 75,000 pages. Okay, so who's reading all that? The answer is nobody. Nobody. And it's alarming that we know so little about taxes. Like there's that one meme, I think, that says, "Thank goodness I learned so much about parallelograms for parallelogram season," because it's like, we're in tax season right now. It's March in this recording. And like most people have no clue what's going on with taxes. So that's why we're talking about taxes today. It's important for parents and kids to really understand what's going on.
So when it comes to taxes as a parent, I think the moment you have kids, you have a million other things going on in your mind. Taxes can fall to the wayside. And, it depends on your level of income. Depending on how much you make, you can start wondering about taxes the more you make. But that's an issue as well, because we want every parent to get smart about our core principles of taxes for you as a parent and how to teach it to your kids. So, we've all seen the dad tax, right? We've all had, your kid has a cookie and you're like, dad tax, take a bite. Kid has goldfish, dad tax. We do this for our kids to teach them about what taxes are. And they get really frustrated. And then they're like, what do you mean tax? What's a tax? And I don't think kids have any idea starting out what taxes are. They don't understand that there's dozens and dozens of different taxes that we as a family are paying throughout the year, that we need to be educating them about, and what do taxes even go for. So, this is not a podcast for Chad and I to tell you all that taxes are evil and we should be an absolute libertarian / communist state with anarchy. That's not the point of this podcast. There's other podcasts that are probably more interesting that you can talk about. That's not us. So we want to talk to you about, what taxes are for and how to teach them to your kids. And then some simple savings that you guys can think of as parents for taxes too.
Yeah. And I would add to that, Scott, I think as a parent, maybe you've had the experience where your kid is buying something that says it's, let's say, 99 cents or it's $4.99. And they think it's actually that exact amount. And when they pay, it's like, no, the actual charge is higher. And it's confusing. Like, I thought this was $4.99. I have a $5 bill. Why is it $5.40? Like, what's going on? Someone's lying to me here, And on that, in chapter 4 of Smart Not Spoiled, it's about talking taxes. Well, Mark Twain said, quote, "What's the difference between a taxidermist and a tax collector?
What?
The taxidermist only takes your skin." All right, unquote. There you go. So that's my great dad joke of the day on taxes. I think it's critical. Like we worked with an NBA player who was 19 years old, and he signed a very high, lucrative, multi-million-dollar contract. Actually, he was 18 when he got drafted out of college. He was a freshman, one-and-done player, and he thought, he thought in his contract he was going to get all that money. And little did he know, he literally was going to pay over 50% in taxes from all the money that he earned. And so that massive multi-million-dollar contract was great, but it wasn't what he thought it was. And the crazy part is, since the NBA plays in 20 different states, he owes taxes, not just to the federal government, but to each of those 20 states that he has games in. So we had to go back and track how long he's in each city for each game. And the state wants tax money for every day that he's in that state, even if it's like the game was last night and they didn't leave till the next day, that state wants to get a piece of his income for that extra day. So, I mean, it was shocking to him. He understands it now, but it's important. It's important to understand what taxes are and the difference it makes when it comes to financial planning.
Yeah, that talk about pay to play, dude.
Yep.
Taxes are, they're important. We're not going to sit here and tell you guys taxes should be way higher or taxes should be nothing, or we should do a flat tax, or the progressive tax is evil. We're not here to talk about those things. You guys can talk about those in the comments of all of the shows and podcasts, because we would love to have this dialogue with you on show notes. So what we do want to talk about is like, okay, so if you have zero taxes, we don't have anything. We don't have roads, we don't have some of the public services. We might not have most of the politicians, which may be favorable. Hey, do you know what the definition of a politic is?
What?
Poly means many, and
Oh boy,
ticks are blood-sucking creatures.
that's great.
Oh wait, aren't you a treasurer for a school?
Yeah, all right, we're digressing, Mr. Donnell.
I'm joking, but the point is, like, you have to have some sort of a way to keep the community running. That's how a lot of this started. So like the history of taxes, you go all the way back to 1870 was the first civil tax for the Civil War, actually, in the States. The America rebelled against Britain in the Revolutionary War because of oppressive taxes, right? They said, wait a minute, you're taking all this money to go back to England for the king. That's not fair. That doesn't make any sense. So a lot of the freedoms that this country were built upon were about being able to do what we want with the money that we create and the value that we create for ourselves and our community. And then you have a slow progression of taxes, with Lincoln and the Revolutionary War. There were certain taxes that were put into law. I think in 1913, the 16th Amendment was the first real tax that was like 1%, and it went up to like 3% total. And then we get into some of the wars, World War I and World War II, and then some of the highest tax rates went crazy, 70 up to 90%, state and federal, crazy tax. And then it went back down and then up again and down again. And, some would argue we have more favorable taxes now than we've had over the last several decades. So, it's been up and down in history, but, there is a certain amount of taxes that are needed for covering the bases.
Why do parents need to understand that and teach that to their kids? What's the difference if they understand it or not?
Well, the main thing is we don't want to sit here and think we're being robbed every year with taxes. What we can do is vote based on what we believe should be the appropriate use of taxes, right? That's important to teach your kids. Like, we have a responsibility as citizens to be able to vote and have a decision on where our money is going when we do give it away to the government, right? Or the state or the local municipality or the federal government. It's important for kids to understand, like, this is not just an oppression of you. It's not just stealing your money every year so where you feel bad every tax season. There's something that can potentially be valuable from the taxes we pay, and we can actually have a say in this world. I mean, you look at young people today, and a lot of the skepticism around the next generations coming up is that they don't even want to have anything to do with it. They look at politicians and all the scams. They look at, government wasteful spending.
Yeah, it's just a lack of trust.
It's a lack of trust. And we are a government made up by the citizens of the people. That's what our freedoms are. That's the rights and our amendments to be able to decide and have at least one vote of what we want to do and what we believe in. And I think that's really important for kids to understand, is like, look, you have a say in the world around you. You can get involved. You can get involved at a local level. You can get involved in these discussions. I'm thankful for my friends. I've been asked many times to do certain things in the government, and I've to this point said no, thank you. I have relatives that have been, reps, state reps, but it's important for us to at least be involved and have these discussions with our kids, right? It might be valuable for you to do some research with your kids and say, here's where our tax dollars are going. Do you think this is fair? Do you think this is a good thing? Do you think this is a waste? Do you think this is a bad thing? Right? The schools want more money for this. The city needs more money for this. The federal government is wanting to put, $1 trillion of debt onto you and your kids. Do you think that's a good thing? Do you think that's a bad thing? Right?
I think the theme of what I'm hearing you say is teach your kids what taxes are, what they go for, and how you can be involved and actually be an active participant in the process, rather than just this woe is me, I'm paying taxes and I don't even know what it's going towards. Like, being ignorant is not helping anyone. So teaching your kids what taxes are, what they go for. Like, I involve my kids in a lot of community things because I am elected. I'm managing almost $500 million of investments for our city taxpayers. So I'm entrusted to manage the investments for the 170,000 taxpayers in my city. And so my kids have gone to so many events and a lot of city things, and we know the police and the fire and the community service, first responders, and these people.
Yeah.
I think it's just important to teach what that money goes for. And like you said, be an active person in your community. And if you feel strongly about something, to be someone who actually votes and steps up and makes a contribution. On the flip side, let's teach them how to be smart with money. Let's teach our kids to be smart with money, and that there are ways to pay less in taxes and to keep more of your money when possible. Like, there's so many legal opportunities to keep more of your hard-earned money and reduce the waste of the money that you're earning. Like, if you're buying a car and you're buying a car in a certain city or a county or a state that has a much higher tax rate for sales tax than a different city or state or municipality, like, you might want to look at that. It will affect the total cost of a very large purchase.
Yep.
So these are things we can talk about with our kids. Income taxes is critical. It's a critical topic to teach our kids. You don't have to tell them how much you make, but you can go through and discuss the different tax rates and different tax brackets and what it means. I just think that's an important discussion so that your kids aren't shocked when they get their first paycheck.
Yeah. What we really want to make sure that parents understand is, don't let your kids be shocked by almost anything. The moment they leave your house, they should be ready for the real world. In Gravy Stack, we have a great game where the kids are doing like a tax hunt. They're looking around, and you're going through, you're helping understand what are payroll taxes when mom or dad get paid. What are the sales taxes when we're going out to eat or go to the gas station or the grocery store? What are the state taxes that we have to pay when we make income? What are the federal taxes that we have to pay? It helps kids to understand, oh, okay, there's a lot of different taxes out there that I need to be aware of. And it is smart to be able to save on taxes. It's smart to be able to deduct things that are passed by law safely and legally for you to be able to reduce the amount of income that needs to be given to somebody else. I mean, the stats are pretty clear, Chad, that there's a reason why there's a lot of deductions out there for tax credits, right?
Right.
You should definitely look up tax credits in your state, whether you're giving to different charities or helping with kids or different nonprofits or the homeless or all these different things that can help you take off your dollar for dollar state income tax to go to exactly where you want it to go. It's like a vote when you do that with your money. There are so many things like that you can look up. We can probably give you a list. We could do another episode if you guys want to call in and ask more questions on taxes. We'll do a whole nother episode on some very specific things that you as parents can look into for your taxes. But 529 college accounts, Roth IRAs, maxing out your pensions and 401ks each year. If you get matching with your employer, you should be maxing that out as much as you can, and then teaching your kids why that is so important for your future. $1 in your hands is going to go a lot farther than $1 in the government's hands.
And I would add to that, Scott, those are great points. If you're able to save and defer taxes, save money, invest money, and defer taxes, that money is going to grow and compound so much faster than money that's after taxes every time. So things that you can do, like one thing I've done for my 5 kids, and one thing we've done for clients that we work with, is if you own a business, is employ your kids. Get your kids to work. You can actually pay your kids. This year, it's like $12,000 to $13,000 a year, tax-free, where they can earn money and not have to pay any taxes. They can contribute that to a Roth IRA. They can contribute often to a 401k plan. So my kids actively are participating in retirement investment planning because they're earning money and they're saving on taxes even at a young age. And I do have them work. They do have to come to the office and do some work. And they do marketing with us. They go to events with us. So there's a lot of opportunities. And like you said, Scott, incentives to help us do things. Behavior that the government wants and the communities want us to do is incentivized by tax credits or tax deductions, right? Expenses, credits. So if we're able to look in the incentives and see what they want us to do and see if there's opportunities that align with our values, let's take advantage of that. Like, teach our kids to be smart with money by saying, hey, this is something we give charitably. You know, we give to our church, we give to a local charity, a women's charity. That's a tax deduction. And that's something we want to do anyways. So why would I not teach my kids about how the tax benefits work of things that we already want to do? I mean, that's just what a smart money parent would do anyways.
Yep. If you're saving your money to use for the things that you want, right? $1, I read this study that was done on a government entity organization versus a personal, like a nonprofit organization or a private enterprise. It's almost 17 times more efficient with the money. So $1 in your hands can go 17 times farther being given to a local organization that is really managing the budget well, using the funds correctly and accurately, keeping accountability to the clients and the customers, rather than potentially a government entity that is budgeted with a zero-sum budget that's using up the funds, and they have to spend all that money so they can get more next year and ask for more the next year, right? So it's really important. You know, we're not just trying to be stingy. We're not just trying to be miserly and hoard everything we can. What we're saying is taxes are valuable for certain things in our communities, in the world we live in. But if there's a legal way for you to save on those taxes, those dollars can go so much farther in your hands and in your kids' hands in their future. That's the main thing for you to be able to understand when it comes to taxes.
Which leads me to a quote by economist Milton Friedman. He said, if you put the federal government in charge of the Sahara Desert, in 5 years, there'd be a shortage of sand. Strong words for an economist. I didn't say it, not my words. But on a different note, something I think you need to teach your kids and probably yourselves. I'm calling you out. Lots of you parents don't realize this. I'll start with a story. I hear a lot of people, even on commercials around tax season, around April, talking about their tax refund like it's free money, like they won the lottery or like it's a bonus. You should not celebrate a massive tax refund. You should work to eliminate it. That means you gave your own hard-earned money to the government all year and you loaned it to them and charged them nothing. You got 0% interest. And maybe, and I don't know your situation, but maybe you had a tough year. Maybe you needed that extra cash flow every month. And instead you let the government hold on to the money and then give it back to you in April or later. So ideally, if you're understanding your withholdings and your tax planning and how much you're making, you want no refund and you don't want to owe anything. You kind of just want it to be, hey, we're squared up on April 15th when you look at all the stuff. So do not celebrate a big tax refund. A big tax refund doesn't mean that your tax person is good. Okay. So it just means you overpaid what you should have paid last year. So the H&R Block commercials where they're talking about, hey, we guarantee you we'll get you a refund of XYZ or more. Well, a lot of that is marketing. It's gimmicky. Maybe it's just because they know you definitely didn't look up all the deduction opportunities. But teach your kids and teach yourself that a tax refund is not free money. It's not a trip to Hawaii. It's not a bonus. It's your own hard-earned money from last year. I just think that's a critical lesson to teach in this podcast show.
If I'd have known this, man, my first big year was 12 years ago. I made 6 figures, a really good year. We had a little sell-off and I was like, holy cow, this is awesome. And then we paid the tax bracket, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't have the help and all of the deductions I know now. If I'd have known that, I probably would have saved in the first 4 or 5 years of doing business, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in taxes. Sheesh. If I'd have known better. And, things like gas and things like if I have my own LLC, there's so many deductions I can use when I'm using my home for work or, our kids or, different expenses, the list just goes on and on and on. And, every dollar you can save is worth so much more for you in the long term. I was laughing. We just finished one of the games in Gravy Stack and it's the Broke Celebrity Challenge. And
that's a good one.
We have these funny characters in the game, like Tyke Mason and CM Screwdriver. You guys could
Oh, that's
probably figure
funny.
that out. But when
That's
you
funny.
research, and part of the research of building this fun game for kids, and the point of the game, by the way, is to help the kids learn, here's why you have to save and spend wisely. But most of the errors of people that get a big check are not realizing their tax bill. That really is the problem at the end of the day, is they go out and spend it. This is the professional athlete problem. They go out and spend it. They got to get the house for the buddies. They got to take care of their mom. They got to get the car. They got to get everything, the jewelry. And then all of a sudden they don't realize, oh my gosh, no one told me I owed all these taxes, and it's 9 months later and bam, I don't have it anymore. I've heard so many nightmares about that. And so, that's a small percentage of people who just get a huge, crazy check. But this stuff also compounds over time, right? Even if you miss out on $5,000 or $10,000 a year over a decade, that's 6 figures that you could have invested and turned it into $250,000. You know what I mean? So
Yep.
this stuff adds up. You don't realize being nickel and dimed on these things over the long term really does add up a lot.
So factor in taxes when you're looking at budgeting, cash flow, income, sales tax. If you're grandparents, you're thinking about maybe estate tax. Like, there's taxes everywhere. There's property tax. There's just all kinds of different taxes that you should at least be aware of. And I think it's a good exercise for kids to understand and learn about it. They will definitely set themselves apart as smart money kids if they start learning about taxes at a young age, because most kids graduating high school just have no clue.
I got a big one here.
Go for it.
And by the way, you just reminded me of something. I had a friend who's teenager. This is a good thing to do when they're like 12 and up, but he's like, hey, here's our tax bill. Here are the things we're deducting. Go wild, do research. What else can we deduct? And he's like, I'll give you half of it.
No way.
Kid found like 15 grand.
No way. That's
and like
awesome.
things that dad
That's
was
awesome.
like, what? And they like called their tax people and they're like, oh yeah, we didn't realize you were spending on these things. Like, great. That's a great lesson for a teenager.
Awesome.
It's like an analytical researcher, and maybe they'll do some dumb thinking on social media, but they should really look it up and ask the questions at least to see if it's something that is legally deductible. So that's just a thought. If you guys have teenagers and you want to have them make some extra money and save you a bunch, that's a great start.
Yeah, it's a great little research project.
Yep. There was a stat that I saw that we made a little piece of content around, and I want you to react to this, Chad.
Okay.
80% of all of the money in circulation in existence that has ever existed in existence right now has been printed in the last 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Think about that. Of all the money that's circulating, 80%, 4/5 of it has been printed since the beginning of 2020. That is a wild stat. And if you think about, obviously that's going to cause inflation. And that's going to really make you think about how critical it is for you to be saving your money in your bank account and using your money wisely to invest. Like, that to me is like, okay, we've got an issue, right? I don't know how we're going to even be able to cover that bill with the taxes that people pay today, right? You look at the national debt that is just growing exponentially, and we're just printing ourselves out of problems until one day our grandkids are going to really be mad at us. And so I want you to react to that. What comes to mind when you hear that stat?
Yeah, that stat it's something that I'm aware of. It's alarming. My bachelor's degree back in the day was in economics, and just studying how the economy and how money works. It's the main way that governments get essentially try to pay their way out of these big holes is through inflation. It's not through being very fiscally sound and making extra payments against the principal on their debt like that. They don't think like homeowners, trying to pay down their mortgage. It's typically through inflation and cheaper dollars in the future. So it's even more of a reason for people to invest and to be smart with investing, because you can't put your money under the mattress and keep up with inflation. So when I always tell clients, when the government is printing and spending, you have to be investing. You cannot be just sitting idle, or your money will just decline in value at incredibly high rates. So your money needs to be active. The more money you can put to work, the better. And obviously that's why today we're talking about tax planning and taxes, because you've got to be aware of that, or you're going to just give away a lot of your money that maybe you don't have to. So investing to outpace inflation, being smart with your money, understanding where taxes go, being an active participant in the community, voting, and just being money smart, making sure that you can keep and invest as much as you can out of the money you're working so hard to earn.
One of the things that we always talk about, it's being a through line in all of our podcasts so far, our recordings, is just bringing your kids along for the ride, right? Use every moment, especially when it comes to money, right? There's a lot of things that you guys do in your family that has to do with buying and selling and investing and earning and taxes and real estate and budgeting. Everything is an opportunity to teach. It's an opportunity to pass on the lessons you've learned as a parent to your kids and help them think like you are in the moment, right? So many parents they think that this is something I have to handle and my kids are going to be doing their own thing. Right. The best parents we knew bringing up their kids that are now incredible adults, those are the parents that are having the conversations daily, right? They know, I just had this experience today. I'm going to bring it up at dinner. This is our dinner topic, right? We love the what'd you learn at school today, or how'd you, fail today, or what good questions did you ask today? You know what you should do? Just share an experience from your day and get your kids to react to it. Here's what I saw today. What do you guys think about this? Right? That is one of the best ways to parent. It's a no-brainer. It's easy to remember. Bring your kids along for the ride, and taxes is one of the best ones.
One thing that I did, Scott, is I bought a big whiteboard with a stand, and we have it by the dinner table. So there's sometimes I'll write a topic or a question on the board. And then when we have family dinner, we'll sit down and I'll say, let's talk about it. And sometimes I'll get up and just start writing on there and write down some of their answers and just get a discussion going, kind of like just an engaging class. And at least once a month, I'm doing financial stuff. So like my kids know a lot of the terms that their friends have no idea what it means. So my kids can talk about a balance sheet and a P&L statement, and they can talk about income and cash flow and investing. And I'll say, what are the growth investments? And they say, well, mostly the most common growth investments are real estate and stocks. And so we'll talk about what the difference is. So you're right, Scott, though, you got to just have the conversation. Just start it. That's what we're here encouraging you to do. Smart Money Parenting Show is just have these money conversations. And certainly they're going to learn a ton if they're downloading and they're using the Gravy Stack app. That's what it's there for. But we're here for you. That's why we're here on the show.
Yeah. Take your kids to the DMV. You'll learn everything you need to know about taxes.
There you go.
Okay.
On that
note, send us a comment. We actually want to hear a lot more. Like this is a hard hitting topic. So go to smartmoneyparenting.com, ask us a question there. If you get shown on the show, we will call you out. We'll give you some spiffs and swag. We'll hook you up with Gravy Stack, the viral kids banking app for families with the games. And just make sure you share this with somebody who needs to hear it today, and like and follow, subscribe. That's it. You guys are awesome. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for listening.
It takes more than money if you want to succeed. You gotta know what to do with it. You gotta take the lead. You gotta give them confidence. You gotta make them smart. If your kids are gonna thrive, now's the time to start. Smart Money Parenting.